This weekend, roughly 40 million Americans are in the direct path of back-to-back winter systems, and the more serious of the two has not yet received the attention it deserves. While today brings a brief lull across the northern plains, a high-pressure system holding conditions calm and temperatures deceptively mild, that quiet is temporary. A cold front is already pushing south through the Great Lakes, and the moisture it is about to collide with will trigger some of the most disruptive conditions of the late winter season. The contrast driving this pattern is stark. Across the south and southwest, temperatures are running well above average, with parts of South Texas recently breaking February heat records and flirting with triple digits. That warmth is not simply pleasant weather, it is Gulf moisture pumping northward and setting the stage for a violent atmospheric clash as Arctic air descends from Canada. That collision is what fuels major storm systems, and that is precisely what forecasters are tracking right now. The first system lands this weekend, with the Midwest at ground zero. Forecasters are still working to pin down one critical detail, exactly where the rain-snow-ice line sets up. Chicago is expecting snow showers Saturday with 1 to 3 inches of accumulation, northwest winds gusting to 25 miles per hour, and highs only in the low 30s. Milwaukee faces a nearly identical setup. Kansas City sits on a particularly dangerous knifegy, where the difference between a snowstorm and a freezing rain event could mean very different consequences for roads and power infrastructure. Omaha and Lincoln are watching for snow, with overnight lows dropping into the 20s, and wind chills making conditions feel significantly harsher than the thermometer suggests. Wichita is positioned in the wintry mix zone, where travel Saturday night into Sunday morning could turn genuinely hazardous depending on where the ice band develops. Minneapolis and St. Paul are already running some of the coldest numbers in the country, with highs only in the low 20s and brutal wind chills compounding 1 to 3 inches of expected snowfall. Across the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, the picture stretches into a multi-day event. Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Toledo, and Detroit are all looking at snow and ice from Sunday through Tuesday, with winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour and highs barely reaching the low 30s. Indianapolis and Fort Wayne face snow with possible icing, shaping up to be a rough start to the work week across Indiana. Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky sit in that transitional zone, where snow, sleet, and freezing rain are all on the table, and roads could be treacherous by Sunday night. The second system is the one that warrants the closest attention, particularly for residents along the East Coast. A more organized ice and snow event is expected to take shape Tuesday, stretching from the mid-Atlantic through New England. This comes just days after the historic blizzard of 2026, unofficially named Winter Storm Hernando, which struck the Northeast between February 22nd and 23rd, dropping 2 to 3 feet of snow across much of the Northeast megalopolis, and bringing blizzard conditions, strong, gusty winds, and coastal flooding to the region's shorelines. New York City is expecting a high of 41 degrees with light snow and a rain mix possible Sunday through Tuesday, with winds of 10 to 20 miles per hour. This system is far less intense than last week's historic storm, but even a thin glaze of freezing rain on streets and infrastructure still battered from the blizzard presents real danger. Boston, still in recovery mode with a high of 37 degrees and overnight lows of 26, faces yet more wintry mix layering on top of an already burdened city. Philadelphia faces one of the more complex forecast scenarios. Warm air fighting against the cold means the precipitation type could flip multiple times between Monday and Tuesday. Washington, D.C. and Baltimore are in similar territory, with rain Monday transitioning to light snow and ice Tuesday. Pittsburgh is expecting straightforward snow with winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour. Ice accumulation across the Northeast is expected to remain under a quarter of an inch. Soanga Nachubwatrdanak Aligabanabatu Sarchumbanch, not a major ice storm, but enough to make bridges, overpasses, and untreated surfaces extremely dangerous. Isolated power outages remain a concern. Looking beyond this week, the Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of severe weather, a level 2 out of 5, for Wednesday, March 4th, across the deep south and southern plains. A cold front is forecast to move into the southern plains as a moist air mass spreads northward from North Texas into southern and eastern Oklahoma, with thunderstorms most likely to form along the front during the afternoon and evening, bringing the potential for large hail and severe wind gusts. The target zone includes areas near Little Rock, Dallas-Fort Worth, southeastern Oklahoma, and East Texas. Tornadoes cannot be ruled out. In March, tornado activity is forecast to focus on a corridor from northern Georgia to Oklahoma and northward through much of Illinois. The entire Dallas-Fort Worth metro, currently enjoying highs in the 70s and mild conditions, really needs to have March 4th circled on the calendar. Oklahoma City and Tulsa are both in the target zone and should monitor updates closely as the pattern evolves over the coming days. The broader severe weather picture for early spring is shifting in character. While tornado activity is expected to trend lower compared to 2025, the risk will shift toward more frequent heavy downpours, flooding, and damaging straight-line wind events, with an increased risk of severe weather episodes across the eastern plains into the mid-Mississippi River Valley and western Ohio Valley in March and April. Forecasters warn that fewer tornadoes does not mean a less dangerous season. It means the danger is taking a different shape. Across the south, the warm stretch currently in place is also raising fire weather concerns. Dry, warm, and windy conditions are elevating fire danger across the plains through the mid-Mississippi Valley simultaneously. The atmosphere is running in multiple competing directions at once: winter storm conditions in the Midwest, a fire weather threat in the Central Plains, and a developing severe weather setup for the Deep South, all at the same time. One additional signal is drawing attention from meteorologists: the possibility of another sudden stratospheric warming event disrupting the polar vortex after March 10th. A similar disruption earlier this winter contributed to some of the season's most brutal cold snaps. If the current model signal verifies, temperatures could drop 25 to 30 degrees below average across parts of the country in mid-March, arriving directly on the heels of what is expected to be one of the warmest stretches of the entire season, with readings in the 60s, 70s, and 80s along the Gulf Coast from March 5th through 9th. For now, residents across the Midwest and Great Lakes should check National Weather Service alerts frequently and avoid waiting until the morning of to assess travel conditions. Those in the Northeast should treat Tuesday's event with caution, particularly given the hazardous state of infrastructure following last week's historic blizzard. Residents of the Southern Plains and Deep South should enjoy the warm weather this weekend and prepare for what is coming Wednesday. The pattern is not settling. Winter and spring are still fighting for control,